amid all the appropriate fussing over the NHL trade deadline and the Penguins eventually coming away with a big name in Jeff Carter, maybe it's gotten lost that the Stanley Cup playoffs are only a month away and some of these injured guys still aren't around. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer up daily shots of Steelers and Pirates, right where you found this thing. Ron Hextall met with we media types yesterday, expounding not only on the Carter trade, but also the general state of the Penguins, which has him very encouraged, and which also, in his own words, quote, forced us, end quote, to make the Carter move. Doing something that maybe even Hextall and Brian Burke didn't feel all that comfortable doing, and giving up a couple of draft picks to bring Carter in. But also within that session, he ran through an injury list and a timeline update on some of these guys that had not been previously shared, and this was it.
Tans, I don't believe will be back before the playoffs. That's a tough injury to judge. Cappy is probably the easiest. I would think Cappy, I'm guessing, somewhere in the 10 to 14 day range. And Gino's a little tougher again, but I do believe Gino will be back before the regular season ends.
So yeah, yikes, huh? How about some of those? Especially Brandon Tanev. I mean, just flat out stating that he doesn't expect to have Tanev back at all for the regular season. Look at the calendar. You know, the NHL has not announced exactly when the Stanley Cup playoffs will start because all of that's subject to change, especially with what's happened with the Vancouver Canucks and how the North Division will be impacted. But you're still probably looking at sometime in the second week of May. The Penguins have 14 games left to play, and their last one is on May 8th. So if you give the standard, 3-4 days off between the end of the regular season and game one of the first round, it's a month. It's a month. So when Hextall says Tanev's going to be out the rest of the regular season, that very much puts his playoff status into question. It just does. There's no other way of stating that. There's no sugarcoating that. When he says Kasperi Kapanen will be back 10 to 14 days, and he expressed some firmness to that. He said, this one is a little bit easier to read. I'm going to keep saying this. I'm positive that he has a foot fracture because of the way the puck came around the boards and hit him just awkwardly. And they can tell that. They know how long from the time you put that foot in a hard cast it's going to take for that bone to heal properly and then for the athlete to feel comfortable skating on it. And then there's Gino. The timetable for Gino was, well, you heard him. We expect to have him back at some point in the regular season. That's been the line that's been used by Mike Sullivan throughout. And remember that normally Sullivan is the only one who speaks about injuries, and he never gets into timetables, which is why this was a valuable thing to get from Hextall yesterday. We expect him to be back. Again, if Gino is already on skates, and he is since last week, we don't know to what extent. He's not visible to us when we go to Cranberry or to PPG Paints Arena. The players, by and large, who skate on their own do so even before the taxi squad guys, who then go before the main practice. There have been a couple of times we've gotten into the building, meaning the Lemieux Sports Complex up there, right as the injured guys leave the ice, but you're not going to see anything there. The taxi squad guys come out right away. So we don't know what skating means in that sense. Skating could mean, he just puts on skates and goes out there and stands. I mean, I doubt that that's what's going on, but until you see or at least hear from the Penguins what he's actually doing. Is he doing drills with Ty Hennis, the skills coach? Is he able to do this or that on the ice? You're not going to know how he's going to be able to test that knee. And I have at least heard that much and have reported it, that it is his knee. What we have not heard from the Penguins, and this is encouraging, is that the knee required any kind of surgical procedure. And you might say, whoa, we definitely would have heard about surgery. I mean, that would be a really big deal. No, not necessarily. There are different types of surgeries on the knee that are just super fast cleanups where you can be back in a couple weeks. And we'd never heard anything like that, and we would have. So consider the positives in that, but also consider that, look at what we're talking about here. Go through your lines. Go through your lines and ask yourself how this team is going to incorporate Malkin and Kapanen, 2/3 of their number 2 line, with, let's presume Jared McCann is the left winger. And then you're going to have Jeff Carter. Let's assume that he's going to be a center, even though he was mostly on the wing with the Kings. He's a natural centerman. If you have Carter as your third-line center with Jason Zucker and, I don't know, Evan Rodriguez, Freddie Gaudreau, someone like that on the right side, someone else who can kill penalties. And then you have your fourth line of, you can't even put that one together. Teddy Bluger, Zach Aston Reese, and Brandon Tanev? Who knows? Who knows about Tanev? That was the least certain of all of them. I think you can see where I'm heading with this. You would like for this group to continue performing as it's currently constructed, even as superior players return to the lineup. But that's not going to be easy here. No one, not Gino, as we saw from the beginning of this season, no one is going to be able to just fly out onto the rink for game 1 and be anywhere near as effective as they were before they got hurt. That's going to take time. And in playoff series, you don't have time. So what do? Tell Gino, know what? Gino, just take another week. Keep doing some more drills with Ty Hennis, and we're going to just stick with Evan Rodriguez or somebody here. You can't do that either. You can't do that either. This portion of Daily Shot of Penguins is brought to you by Fubo TV. The monthly cost of cable is probably in your house too, over $200. Fubo TV is $65 a month to watch all the same channels. You get DVR for free. There's no such thing as installation. There's no contracts. You can cancel anytime. You do get AT&T Sportsnet Pittsburgh, which means you get to watch the Penguins and the Pirates, which might be the only reason you've hung on to cable in the first place. And best of all, just for listening to this fine program, Fubo TV is offering our listeners a 7-day free trial and 15% off your first month by going to FuboTV.com/DK. And yes, that's a real web address. FuboTV.com/DK to get that deal. Ideally, not that you can just snap your fingers and make ideally happen, you would see some of these players come back in a more staggered way, the way we've seen with Bluger. But now you've got Gaudreau on the shelf. We're not going to find out anything more, I don't think anyway, today the Penguins have canceled their practice in favor of an off-ice workout, which means there will be no media on hand. We won't be able to see anything. Mike Sullivan's going to have a session with us at noon, but he doesn't have to tell us anything. It's going to be a process. And let's not forget that in these 14 games, based on ample precedent, other players are going to get hurt. That's one of the bad things about having a lot of injuries. Your luck doesn't just immediately turn around. The guys who are out there, who are playing, Hextall actually brought this up himself yesterday, are getting tired. They're wearing down. Sid, Jake, and Rust, yeah, they keep scoring, and it's to their credit, but they've taken on a lot of ice time. They've taken on a lot of burden. And lucky for them, they have had a whole lot of Sabres and Devils and even a few other opponents not at their best, like the most recent round with the Bruins. So that's benefited them. They've gotten a little bit lucky in that regard. But that's the other thing you got to guard against here. You got to make sure that that top line is firing on all cylinders come game one. I'm not making excuses for the Penguins to bomb in the playoffs in advance. Okay? That's not even a thought here. But I am trying to lay out what the challenge is going to be for this group and for this coaching staff. And, I mean, good luck. Good luck. When we come back, just one question. Welcome back. It's time for Just One Question, and that's brought to you on this program always by the good people at the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. The web address to type onto your browser at your next opportunity is pittsburghfoodbank.org. Spell out all three of those words, pittsburghfoodbank.org. The food bank is provided thousands upon thousands of meals to our neighbors in need across Western Pennsylvania. And they've done that thanks to you and your generosity and your contributions. $1 is all it takes to provide 5 meals. Go to pittsburghfoodbank.org to find out how on earth that thing is possible. It's amazing, and they lay it out actually very nicely for you. Today's question comes from Brian Boxler, who first says that he listens to these daily shot shows, which are posted in the morning when he's driving home from work every day. Hey, whatever works best for you. That's the beauty of the podcast. Brian says, you were saying that the Penguins have too many left-handed defensemen, and I wonder why none of them were dealt at the trade deadline. You know, I got to admit, Brian, I had a very similar thought. Not just about all of the left-handed defensemen that are still here in the organization, but also about a lot of the forwards. The Penguins have a lot of NHL caliber talent. Not all of it's great, and not all of it is contender level talent, but it's here in volume, and it's not just on the blue line. Yeah, if you go to the blue line, I mean, don't forget that you have 4 legit right-handed defensemen, because Chad Ruhwedel doesn't play anymore, but Ruhwedel's available. It's just the Penguins have been fortunate, and the 3 guys ahead of him have stayed healthy and performed well. But you have 5 on the left side, including currently off the chart, Juuso Riikola and P.O. Joseph. And that's a lot. Maybe. Because one pattern that we've seen throughout hockey history, never mind just with the Penguins, is that defensemen will get hurt in the playoffs. Part of any team's plan going into a playoff is to wear down physically the opponent's defenseman. If you're not doing that, your chances aren't particularly good of winning that series. A lot has changed about hockey, notably the icing method for calling it. You used to be able to really, really ram the other team's D-men just on icing races alone. You can't do that anymore. But there are ways to hit them and to punish them. And yeah, to injure them. And the Penguins appear to be extremely well built to sustain that if and when it happens in the playoffs. But it's not just those guys, it's also the forwards. Once you have everyone healthy, and as I outlined in the opening segment, that's not going to be any picnic. But once you have everyone, you can suit up like a fifth line and most of a sixth line. I'm not kidding. For game one, that wouldn't embarrass you in an NHL setting. Even if you had everyone, like right now, today, ready to go, you would be making a decision for a third line right wing between, oh, here I go, Evan Rodriguez, Mark Jankowski, Freddie Gaudreau, Anthony Angelo, Sam Lafferty. This is off the top of my head. I'm probably missing people. Oh, Radim Zahorna. Like, these are 7 guys in the mix for one spot, one open forward spot. However it is that shakes out once everyone's healthy. So I'm actually a little bit more surprised that they couldn't move one or two of those guys. But maybe, especially in the case of someone like Jankowski, who you'd love to get rid of, he's a minimum wage guy. And look, other teams aren't blind. They see how he's playing too. But the 5 lefties on the blue line, Hextall did say yesterday that the Penguins were getting calls on some of their players too. And he didn't elaborate from there, but then he didn't need to because they're all still here. That's his ultimate statement. He wanted very clearly to enter the playoffs with this kind of depth. Partially, no doubt, because of the uncertainty that he's already dealing with. But partially because, what are you going to do? Send P.O. Joseph out? On a team that's got no young players or very, very, very few young players and prospects at any position? I'm okay with this. I'm okay with the whole thing. All that this team needs right now is what's very, very obvious. They all just need to get back on the ice again. Thanks for the question, Brian. Thanks to everybody for listening. We'll do another Daily Shot of Penguins tomorrow.
At Point Park University, in the heart of downtown Pittsburgh, they understand there's no substitute for real-world experience and career-building connections. Their innovative curriculum engages students with distinctive experiential learning opportunities. Point Park's pioneering co-op program empowers qualified students to work in full-time, paid positions with their corporate partners while earning college credits. Visit pointpark.edu/works to learn more. Career ready. That's the point. Point Park University.
Your front door, your car, your gym locker, your gun. Safety is a habit. Learn more about how to keep guns safe and secure. Visit projectchildsafe.org.